All right, back to basics. Why human beings suffer. This might come as a surprise, but it's not because of emotions. Emotions aren't suffering. It's our resistance to or repression of them that causes the suffering, especially long term. And here is why that becomes such a problem for us. And I didn't know this for a long time. Resisting and repressing emotions starting in childhood creates beliefs, belief systems, identities, and worldviews. And I'm going to give you an example. Let's say a little boy learns that he has to push down his vulnerable emotions like hurt, sadness, and grief in order to get his dad's love and approval. So he starts hiding these emotions from himself and other people and can only show up in the world as angry, tough, or however his dad wants him to be. Little does he know that his dad has also been repressing hurt, sadness, and grief since he was a kid and can only show up as half of himself. And so now we've got what looks like, generational trauma, but what's really generational repression, like father, like son. So if you were to guess, what kind of beliefs, belief systems, identities, and worldviews do you think this kid is going to take on? Because he has to take some on, yeah? You can't just live in the world as half a person, yeah? You have to find some kind of substitute self to cling on to. And that's what beliefs, belief systems, identities, and worldviews are, okay? Substitute selves. And honestly, it doesn't ultimately matter what the content of the beliefs, belief systems, identities, and worldviews are. We just have to have some in order to stay safe and get love, yeah? They serve as like surrogate parents. But for this kid, who's a hurt repressor, he is going to naturally gravitate toward and identify with beliefs, belief systems, identities, and worldviews that guarantee that he won't have to know about the buried grief and hurt in his body, feel it, or express it. Because remember, if he had done that with dad, he likely would have been mocked or rejected or even cast out of the family in some cases, and he knows it. So on the belief buffet for a hurt repressor, you'll often find beliefs like this. I have to be strong. I can't show anybody any weakness. Belief systems, Christianity, Islam, atheism, are all helpful for hurt repressors because you can use the tenets of them in order to stay right and powerful, right? And avoid the buried, repressed, vulnerable emotions. Identities, I'm self-sufficient, I'm self-made, I'm important, I'm kind of a big deal, in the words of Ron Burgundy. These are all pretty common identities for hurt and vulnerability repressors. And worldviews, every man for himself, it's dog eat dog out there, only the strong survive, don't tread on me, right? You get the picture. Anything to keep out of conscious awareness the buried vulnerability, grief, sadness, and hurt. So those beliefs, belief systems, identities, and worldviews act as a drug for this kid as he takes them on and grows up. And like any good addict, he will use them until he dies, unless and until they cause him enough suffering that he has to start questioning and challenging them, which is usually preceded by something really bad happening in their lives, right? Like an addict hitting bottom. But the key thing to remember here is that all of this is happening because that kid was forced to bury and repress certain emotions in order to get his needs met. And this is why I'm constantly giving a barrage of context around what emotional repression is and does and what emotional repression work is and does. Because if you don't know what's happening to you, you just start thinking this is normal, this is how life is. Emotional repression-driven beliefs and suffering become your baseline, and they're already status quo. You can pretty safely assume that most of the people that you know or see every day are in some degree of emotional repression and suffering, which means most people, including you, are trapped in and high on beliefs, belief systems, identities, and worldviews in order to stay safe and get love, and they don't even know it yet. And doesn't that make life and human beings a little less confusing? Because it totally did for me when I started to see it in myself and them. And here's the last thing I'll say. This is all so innocent. Nobody knows that they're doing this when they're doing this. Nobody knows that this is happening when it's happening. It's not until later when the drug stops working and they hit bottom and they're forced to get clean that they start to have this realization. So if this doesn't make sense right now, then don't worry about it. Keep believing things and using and suffering. You will anyway. But if it does resonate and you'd like to start getting clean and sober from emotional repression and suffering, then tap the link in the caption or the bio.